Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm Udayan Mukherjee. Today we're going to talk about the Indian eyewear market, which frankly has undergone quite a revolution over the last few years. It was this very unorganized mom and pop shop dominated kind of a space, but the company which has frankly revolutionized it over the last decade or so, last 5 years certainly, is Lenskart. It's become a dominant player through its array of brands and its omni-channel strategy, offline and online. And it's really taken the challenge to even larger players in size like Titan, not on eyewear but as corporate entities, and has become the #1 eyewear company in India. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome on the show today Piyush Bansal, founder and CEO of Lenskart. Piyush, wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for joining in today.
Thanks, Udyan. Thanks for inviting me today.
So tell me, why eyewear? Because you had this, you had gone into this career track in the US with Microsoft, and suddenly you turn course and you say, I'm going to do something of my own, a private enterprise, and that too focused on eyewear. So where did this idea come in the first place, and why that space particularly?
So it didn't happen, like I was at Microsoft and I was quite inspired by the impact that Microsoft products have had on the lives of people, particularly Office where I used to work. And Excel and PowerPoint was, so amazing to see how it impacted lives of people. And I wanted to do something very similar with my life. And that is when I decided to quit. And I started, I came to India literally with no business plan or anything, but I kept exploring opportunities of what would make that kind of impact. Started working on student housing as a problem, solved it for a few years, wasn't that big enough. And then, read articles about how, India is the blind capital of the world, how, 75% of people who need glasses don't wear glasses. And almost 50–60% of India today needs glasses, right? So it looked like one of those problems that wasn't solved, and my grooming at Microsoft was really just solving problems and using technology to solve them, but it was a very, very consumer backward approach, and it wasn't about we'll solve this problem or not that solve it. So that's how I landed up there, and one thing led to the other, and it's been almost a decade now, and we still feel we can work on it for another 2–3 decades to bring that transformation. But it definitely is one of those spaces where I would say I have found my own calling in terms of the impact the kind of impact that I wanted to create. And, if all goes well, hopefully we can make that impact in lives of people.
Now, I want to talk about the people who were important in starting this enterprise, because Lenskart is very much your baby, but your friends or colleagues, Amit and Sumit, are also part of the journey, and
Yes.
you had backing or the confidence from some very important people to begin with, or soon into the journey. Could you just talk a little bit about these other people who have helped you make Lenskart what it is today?
Yeah, so, over the years, there are a lot of people that have, I've been lucky and fortunate to have them with me. So Amit is somebody who joined me right out of college from Mesra, BIT Mesra, and he was part of the entrepreneurship cell. I remember those days he had a job offer from one of the startups, but he chose to work with me. This is actually now my college classified startup before this. And then we both co-founded Lenskart together. So I found him literally on LinkedIn. And then Sumit, who's my other co-founder, we were looking at somebody, me and Amit, or somebody who had experience in eyewear because we had none. And we kept, searching LinkedIn, and we, came across his profile, and he had just quit Luxottica, where he used to work for over a decade, and had started 2 optical shops. So with no real commitment, I almost spent a year visiting his shop. And at that time, he wasn't a co-founder. And I would spend days and weeks there to understand consumers and problems. And that's how, he came on board. And over the years now, we have added Ramnik also as a co-founder who joined us very early days. But yeah, it is literally, I think, we got lucky in the sense that some of these people with very, very different complementing skill sets came together. but we all sort of also share the same value set in terms of
It's not just.
mission and purpose. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask, I mean, it's not just that core team, but even the people who reposed confidence in you, like your, say, an early angel investor like Ronnie Screwvala. Later on, I mean, an iconic name like Ratan Tata, an iconic PE fund like SoftBank. Would you say these have also been big contributors to not just in terms of capital, but also confidence, any kind of mentoring or experiences that they might have shared with you?
Well, absolutely. In fact, my first investor was Chirate, former IDG, and the partner there, Sudhir and TCM, have been my early mentors, and followed by Ronnie, who continues to be my biggest mentor till date. And then, of course, the newer funds and TPG, I learned a lot about people, hiring. With Ronnie, I learned about culture and how to build an organization that is sustainable. With TCM, I learned about, how to really spend time on growth. And now with, SoftBank and KKR and some of the new investors really thinking long term and building an organization and dreaming much bigger than we ever did, right? So I think, yes, I would say choosing the right partners early on makes a lot of difference. I don't think Lenskart would be, or even would be what it is today and could be what it could be tomorrow if it wasn't for these partners. And we have sort of hit a very good equation. Again, lucky, I think, both in terms of people and these partners. And I've been fortunate that our first early stage investor still is an investor in Lenskart and participated quite uniquely in our last round of investment also. It's difficult for any investor to come as a Series A investor and then probably come in in a Series FH round at the same time.
Speaking of funding, Piyush, what's the future looking like? I mean, the kind of growth that you are seeing and the ambitions that you seem to have, do you need a lot of private equity capital going forward? I mean, do you continue to raise hundreds of millions of dollars in the future? Because I ask because this whole digital valuation business has undergone a bit of a cloud, both in the US and in India right now. Could that crimp your growth in any meaningful way?
So Lenskart, we haven't been burning significant money for almost 2.5, 3 years now. Because of COVID, we had somewhat of losses, but this year, coming year, the company will be profitable. It has been profitable for many quarters over the last 2 years. So no, we do not as a company need enormous amount of capital to grow the business. We have been running on good unit economics with a clear path to profitability. In terms of, a lot of the money that has been raised at Lenskart, which the media reports about, is a lot of secondary. We are probably, we have done probably more secondaries than primary in the company. And we have raised capital lately, but those are really investments in long term when it comes to building supply chain and technology, because eyewear is a complex category and our dream is really big, right? We want to give glasses to 50% of people in India, and for that we need to invest in infrastructure, we need to invest in supply chain, and that is where we raise investment. But as a company, we don't burn operating capital as much.
So no plans of an IPO or no need for an IPO in the foreseeable future?
I mean, we would IPO when the time is right, in terms of over the next, I would say, 24 to 36 months. I mean, no one can predict this. I would say there is no rush for an IPO to get the investors an exit, because there has been decent. We at Lenskart also feel that we are still quite early in the journey. I think it all depends on where we want to be and where we are. From our perspective, we are still probably day zero, day one of where we want to be in terms of the impact. And it all goes back to your first question of why I started or why we started Lenskart. I think it's literally when we feel that we have reached at least some level of milestone where we feel we can now go to the next level, staying public. I think we'll go public. But as of now, there is no rush. There's no liquidity issue. It's not, if at all we feel that our investors, we are not able to give them liquidity in the private market, yes, we'll go IPO in the next 6 months. But right now, it doesn't look like that's critical for us to keep moving forward.
It's interesting to hear you say that you've been profitable for much of the last year, year and a half, because there is an impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Lenskart is growing very fast on the top line, but because it is trying to grow the market and maybe expand its footprint, it is probably keeping price points low and therefore sacrificing margins. But could you tell us what your profitability ratios could be like, and whether it is actually a fallacy that you're not very profitability oriented?
I would say that, it is, I think we have a sound business model. The unit economics are good. The business is on path to becoming decently profitable. In terms of, yes, I think perceptions are perceptions. From a perspective of the fact that we sell eyewear cheap, I think it's people who can afford a lot to make that comment. If you ask me, our customers, 40% of our customers still find us expensive. In the surveys of people who do not, or potential customers, right? When we run surveys of why people who didn't buy eyewear did not buy. So I think it's a matter of perspective and where. Like I said, from where we are looking at things and the kind of consumer base we want to serve, we still have a long way to go in terms of opening more price points and even lower price points, right? We want to be essentially the Maruti equivalent of eyewear in India. So from that perspective, we continuously, I would say that over the last 4 years, we have grown only on volume and not by constantly increasing average ticket size. But at the same time, we have done that at the back of very strong supply chain and maintained and even grown margin despite doing that. So yeah, I would say that that's more of a perception.
How fast are you growing, Piyush? Give me a sense of your growth relative to the growth of the eyewear market per se.
Yeah, I mean, we grew about 60% plus last year. We are on track to deliver another 50% plus growth FY23 also. I think eyewear market in India would be growing north of 20%. It's so unorganized, it's difficult to put estimates to these numbers. But I would say about 20 to 30% is where the market, because we see about 30% customers who are first-time glasses wearers now, which is a very good number. I mean, India, there are 400 million plus people who today need specs and are not wearing them. So I'm not surprised at that number. So I would say market would be growing between 20 to 30% and we are growing about 50% plus year on year.
And how much of the market is still unorganized? Because I mean, there is a clutch of organized players. There's you, there's Titan, there's Bausch & Lomb, etc. But would you say that a very large part of the market is still unorganized? And is there a sense of opportunity, a penetration opportunity for a player like you?
I would say about 90% of the market is still unorganized, right? And so us, Titan, all the other sort of chain players, large chain players which are doing maybe 80-100 crores in revenue, all put together would not be more than 10-12% of the total market. The market is still quite, so there are two parts to this market, right? One which is existing, where people are buying 200 million Indians or 250 million Indians which are buying eyewear. And then there is part of the market which is not even, getting an eye tester. And that's a large part of the market too. So even of the market that exists, 90%, almost 85 to 90% of that, I would say, is still really, really unorganized, both at the retail level as well as the product level. So the retailer is unorganized as well as the product that they're selling is largely unorganized. You'll be surprised that Luxottica all put together won't be very large portion, even from a product perspective of the Indian ecosystem.
No, that's obviously stands to reason from anecdotal experience as well. But tell me, what is the kind of a market share breakup between the organized players, and how you differentiate yourself versus, say, a Titan, which looks like the only other significant corporate player which can give Lenskart a run for its money? The others seem too small compared to the pace at which you are growing.
Yeah, I won't comment on any competition or anything, and I'm really literally never obsessed about competition. I think we are literally on a mission to achieve something which is larger. And yeah, but in the organized market, I would say we'll probably be 50% of the organized market. Uh, there's a lot here to be done, opportunity for a lot to do. At Lenskart, how we differentiate ourselves is, we come to work every day thinking we don't know enough and, literally look at it from a problem solving approach of why people who are buying, and why people who are not buying. And there I would say the culture, the team, and is what our biggest strength is, right? Our ability to just be agile and swift, our ability to obsess about details and customers, and our ability to use technology, I would say, to solve some of these problems at scale has been what the biggest differentiation has been.
So you spoke about this 50 to 60% growth. I mean, where is it coming in from? I mean, is it through the collection of stores, ever-growing collection of stores that you have, which is the offline part of it? Or is the thrust of it online? Or do the two feed into each other? What would you say is the real thrust between offline and online which drives your growth?
So the two feed into each other. I think if one really wants to build customer backward, I would say that lines between channels are diminishing, right? Gone are the days where you can bucket consumer and saying that this is an online customer, is an offline customer. And if you look at that last 4 5 year trajectory, you would see that consumers overlap between these channels. And that's actually the strength of Lenskart, that we do not really treat you as an offline customer, as an online customer. So growth is coming across. I think we are not a company which pushes people for a particular channel by offering you special discounts, etc. We truly feel this is an evolution journey. People would get comfortable between different channels. I mean, I'll give you an example. You want to buy an iPhone. You really don't care whether you buy it at Amazon or Flipkart or an Apple store. You want to buy an iPhone, right? And sometimes you buy it online. Sometimes you buy it at an Apple store. Sometimes you buy it at a Chroma or something, right? So I think if we look at fundamentally, people love our eyewear and they have to continue to love our eyewear, and we have to do a good job, a consistent job in terms of making sure they trust that and we can meet their expectations and beat their expectations, and then let them move between channels. So yeah, we are looking at, we have added more channels in this period. We now are quite bullish on our phone channel, and we get a lot of orders every day with people calling us and placing orders on a phone. A lot of people are just chatting and taking advice on WhatsApp, on video calls in terms of styling. So we literally are of a firm view that, we are consumer backward business and not a channel backward business.
And in terms of a geographical breakup, could you give me a sense of where most of your growth is coming in from? Is it still from the metros, or is it primarily B and C cities?
I would say in the last 2 years, growth from the 2 3 cities have grown. It has definitely taken a huge spike versus earlier. I think some of it is market dynamics. A lot of people move there. But yeah, I would say we are still like a 60% metro driven business. We do see, however, a lot of opportunity in the tier 2, tier 3 markets, and it is on our cards, but step by step we'll get there.
Do you have any international aspirations, Piyush, selling outside India, or do you think the India opportunity is so large that most of your mind space will be focused on addressing this market?
So over the last 2 years, I would say more like last 1.5 years, we have been piloting the Lenskart proposition in some international markets like Singapore, and we've seen positive results. Like I said, the reason when I left Microsoft was to create something that impactful. So yes, India is a large opportunity. It will continue to be. We have a lot of work to be done here, but we are not a company which is only thinking 3 years ahead, right? We are thinking 7, 10 years ahead. And from that perspective, yes, we are thinking international. We actually have a firm view that the kind of transformation, and you started the call earlier saying that, in India, in the last 5 years, eyewear has gone through a big transformation. I I must tell you that the transformation that has happened in eyewear in India is actually parallel to none. There has not been any other geography in the world where this transformation has happened at this pace. In terms of the behavior, the number of eyewear people are buying per year, the adoption rate. And I think when we look at that opportunity exists all over the globe for us. So, and globally, I would say 4.5 billion people need glasses, 2 billion people still don't have access to glasses, or they don't wear glasses for whatever reason. So the problem in India, maybe that number is 75%, but globally also that number is 50%. The myopia rate today in most parts of the world is already 50% of people are myopic. If you look at Asia, Southeast Asia, that number is already 80%. So yeah, we do see from a longer term, at Lenskart, if we want to be the Microsoft of eyewear or the Amazon of eyewear, we do have to have global aspirations and look at investing in it for the longer term.
Well, the giant there is Luxottica. It's with almost a $75 billion market cap, last I checked. You think you're going to gun for their position at some point in future?
From an impact perspective, yes. I would not say, it's difficult to build businesses valuation backward or market cap backward. But in terms of the impact, absolutely. I would say that we would definitely want to impact a lot more people in that revenue. We do think that there is half of the world which is left out. We also think that if there was a Netflix to Disney, there has to be a Lenskart to Luxottica. So from that perspective, yes, we do have aspirations to create an impact of that size.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you about the Shark Tank experience, because you've become quite the popular participant there. How was it like? What was that experience like?
So I've been a fan of Shark Tank. I've grown up, I would say, in this entrepreneurial journey watching it, and when the opportunity came, I literally got advised by my family and my co-founders to not say no to this. Where initially the inclination was I would not have the time to. And I would say it was a great experience, probably purely from a learning perspective, right? I think as entrepreneurs, and especially when we are building for the long term, I at least was in a box for the longest time. I think getting out there, meeting entrepreneurs from all across the country, I came out with a lot of learnings. I saw that the pace at which we used to do things, the pace at which we still do things is very different at the pace at which the new generation is doing things. I also saw that if you used to do something in $10, people are now doing it even in $1, and they're doing it in 10x less time. So that way I was able to bring a lot of fresh perspective and learning back to business. So yeah, it's been great from that perspective. It's been great to partner with some of these entrepreneurs, go back. It brings back all the things that we used to do, how agile we were, and then right after some of these meetings, I go back and talk to my team, look, this is how we used to be. Why are we not doing this? And this is where the world is moving. So I think it's been better than I thought it would be.
Finally, one of your first models at Lenskart was Katrina Kaif. Was it a personal choice?
No, actually it was triggered by that song of Kala Chashma, right? And it came out and it's like, this is exactly what you want to do with eyewear. We want people to be addicted. That's the transformation we speak about, right? That just like you buy shoes, apparel, and we often used to have this tagline with us that, but yeah, and when we got out that song, it was like, yeah, we should just get her as the brand ambassador because this is bang on to our vision and purpose.
Hey Piyush, it was great talking to you today. I wish you all the success and even greater heights in the years to come. You're doing a fabulous job. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Din. Thank you. Really appreciate it.